Hello, dear sleepy listener. Welcome to this soft moment where science feels like poetry and the sky is preparing to tell you a secret. Let the day drift gently behind you like mist after a warm summer storm. You're here now, and all you need is a little wonder, a little quiet, and a little light. Before you drift off to sleep, take a moment to like this video, leave a gentle comment about your favourite science moment, and subscribe to continue reading these bedtime stories. And if you'd like, share your location and time zone so we can imagine your dreams from wherever the stars find you. Now, turn off the lights, get comfortable, and let your curiosity drift among the stars. You stand at the edge of a rain-soaked field, stillness in the air. And then there it is, the rainbow. It appears like magic, stretched across the sky like a question that forgot to be answered. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet. A band of impossible softness, woven from light and silence. You've seen this before, maybe many times, but tonight you pause, not just to admire it, but to ask something stranger than usual. If atoms have no colour, why do we see rainbows at all? You begin to float, now not forward, but inward, back toward the source of the rainbow. You rewind time, just slightly, just enough to catch the moment before the light bends, before it reflects and refracts and fans out into colour. You float alongside a beam of sunlight, steady and white. But even that word white is a kind of misunderstanding, because white isn't a colour. Not really. It's a collaboration, a blending of every visible wavelength into one unified brightness. And as you follow it, you realise light is not made of colour. It's made of waves, each with its own frequency, its own rhythm, its own length and shape like notes in a soundless song. And none of them, not one, has redness or blueness built inside. They don't carry pigment. They don't glow like paint. They just travel. They just move until the raindrop, a single trembling sphere of water still hanging in the air after the storm. You float into its curve, and light enters beside you. First, it bends refraction. They call it a soft slant as the wave slows down, changing direction as it moves from air to water. Then, a bounce internal reflection, turning light back the way it came, with a tiny delay, a shift, a pause, and finally, as the light exits the drop, it bends again, but this time it separates. The long waves stretch a little more, the short ones curl tightly, the white begins to unwind, the song opens into harmony, red drifts downward, violet arcs high, and there, in that instant, the rainbow begins not in the sky, but in your perception. Because the rainbow isn't just out there, it's inside you. That light only becomes colour when it reaches your eye, when the waves strike your retina, when cones' tiny receptors in your eye tuned to specific frequencies send signals to your brain, and your brain, it does something miraculous. It turns waves into wonder. It makes red feel warm, blue feel cool, green feel alive. But all of it, every colour you've ever seen, began as something invisible, something that has no colour until it's felt. Atoms don't glow with hue, they hum with energy, and light carries that energy, not with paint, but with motion. You float now not in the raindrop, but in your own mind, and you realise colour is not a property of the world, it is a relationship between energy and biology, between motion and meaning, between physics and feeling. The rainbow isn't an object, it's a conversation between light and water, between I and brain, between world and self. You lie still now, that rainbow still hanging gently in your thoughts, and suddenly the question feels more like a poem. If the universe holds no colour, then maybe colour is how the universe learns to see itself through you. And maybe, just maybe, that's why the rainbow feels so familiar, so comforting, so quietly right. Not because it's painted on the sky, but because it blooms in the space behind your eyes. A secret only you can see, a memory made of light. You drift now past the rainbow, past the storm, past the echo of light that lingers behind your eyes, and deeper into the mystery behind it all, to the building blocks of matter, to the tiny, dancing places where the world begins, to atoms. You're floating beside one now, suspended, humming softly in space. It's not a thing, exactly. Not a sphere or a dot or a miniature marble, as the diagrams once showed. It's more like a probability cloud, a blur of presence, a whisper of where it might be. And in that whisper, there is no colour. The atom is not red. It is not blue. It does not glow with pigment or shine with hue. It simply is. Composed of a nucleus dense and tiny, surrounded by electrons that do not orbit like planets, but ripple like melodies. These electrons have energy. They move in levels, shells, orbitals, and when one gains energy from heat, from light, from collision, it leaps upward to a higher state, not forever, just for a moment. And when it falls back, it releases that energy, as light as a photon, a little pulse, a spark without substance. This is how atoms emit light, not by glowing like fire, but by falling, by letting go of energy they can no longer hold, and that light, the photon, travels outward. But still, it has no colour. It has a wavelength, a frequency, a momentum. But colour is what happens after. Only when the photon enters an eye or a sensor or a leaf or a mind, only then does colour appear. So you begin to see something quieter now. Colour is not in the atom, it is in the interaction. You think of flame tests in chemistry, how sodium burns yellow, copper burns green, lithium burns red, but the flame is not painted. The atoms release photons of specific wavelengths when their electrons return home. And those wavelengths, they fall within the visible spectrum, but only visible to us. Other creatures would see different colours, or none at all. So maybe the atom isn't sending colour. Maybe it's sending a signal. And your brain, your body, your biology, all of it turns that signal into something soft, something luminous, something you can feel. You drift now among countless atoms in wood, in skin, in air. None of them have colour, and yet they scatter light, they absorb it, they reflect it, they shape the photons that reach your eyes, and your eyes, they finish the painting. You begin to feel what this means. That colour is not truth. Colour is not property. Colour is experience. The world itself is a silent song, and your senses are what make it sing. You lie still now, and wonder how much of what I see is really there, and how much of it is made inside me, not as illusion, but as a kind of gift. You remember that atoms so small they escape sight are the foundation of everything. The wood of trees, the skin of hands, the fabric of stars, and yet none of them shine with colour of their own. They are invisible dancers in a room full of echoes, and what you see, what you call blue, or green, or golden hour, is the story your body tells when it listens. Atoms don't know they are being seen. They don't dress up. They don't shine. They simply move, and through that movement they send light, and through that light you create meaning. So as you rest now, let that be enough. You're not watching the world, you're completing it. With every blink, with every gaze, you are adding the brushstrokes the atoms never meant to leave, because the world is colourless, and you are the prism. You float now inside something that seems ordinary, even forgettable. Something so familiar you almost never question it. White light. It's everywhere in lamps, in sunlight, in phone screens and clouds. And yet, it doesn't exist. Not really. Not in the way you think, because white is not a colour. It's a chorus. You drift into a sunbeam now, slow, weightless, glowing. It feels like a single thing, doesn't it, bright, whole? But even here, even in this warmth, something hidden stirs. The light is not one note, it is many, folded into each other like threads in silk, and if you could catch it, split it, tease it apart, as a prism does, you would see them all spill out red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, the rainbow that lives inside the beam, not painted there, not added, but always there waiting. You begin to see that white light is not a pure thing, it's a blend of all possibilities, all the visible wavelengths, those tiny, oscillating ripples of energy layered so closely your eyes can't tell them apart, until something separates them. A drop of rain, a shard of crystal, the curve of a lens, and then the illusion unravels. You feel this now not just in the light, but in yourself. How many things in your life have looked like one thing until you looked deeper? How many smiles held sadness? How many silences carried meaning? You're made of layers, too. White light is not simple, and neither are you. You drift beside a prism now quiet and cold, suspended in the air. Light enters, and something remarkable happens. The different wavelengths bend differently. Red curves less, blue curves more, and the beam stretches not physically, but spectrally. It reveals itself. This is called dispersion, a lovely word. A word for how things unfold, how they reveal their hidden complexity, how unity can contain multitudes, and how beauty is born from that unravelling. Sunlight itself, the thing you thought of as white, is not white. It is a silent rainbow folded tight, a vibration of electromagnetic fields, rippling across space at the speed of meaning, and your eye. It doesn't see the components, it sees the blend, unless you ask it to look deeper. You think now of Newton, and the famous experiment splitting light with a prism, discovering that the colours were already there, that they were not created by the prism, only revealed, and suddenly you begin to ask a softer question. What else in the world seems singular, but holds multitudes inside you? Think of music. A single note from a violin is not one wave, but dozens, fundamentals and overtones, layered so subtly the ear hears them as warmth. You think of love, how it seems like one feeling until it deepens, and becomes safety, grief, joy, recognition. You think of yourself, how many wavelengths you've carried, and how long they stayed folded until someone or something unravelled them with a glance, a kindness, a question, your white light too. And when you meet another, really meet, it's like shining through a prism together. The colour spreads, and you begin to see what was always there. So now, as you lie still, a sunbeam curled softly inside your chest. Remember, this white light is not the absence of colour. It is the presence of all of them blended so finely the eye forgets they are separate. The prism only reminds you, the rainbow only confirms it. And you are the one who sees. You are the moment light becomes story. You are the invitation that lets the silence unfold. So sleep now, wrapped in that light, folded in colour, waiting to be remembered. You're falling now, but gently, not like gravity, more like grace. Downward through a sky still heavy with clouds, but softened by the storm's passing. The air smells of wet soil and far-off thunder, and somewhere just beyond the mist a single drop of rain hangs in motion, not yet fallen, not yet vanished, just suspended, waiting. You drift toward it, a perfect sphere, quivering in the open air, no bigger than the tip of your finger, and inside it, a secret. This is not just water, this is a prism in disguise, a lens shaped by chance and surface tension, a tiny, trembling window through which the whole sky can be bent. You enter now, not from above or below, from everywhere. You are light itself, or something close enough to feel like it. You are sunlight, broad and white and unbroken. You arrive at the surface of the droplet, and something changes. You slow. You bend. This is refraction. The light's first surrender as you pass from air into water. Your wave shifts, like a dancer entering a new rhythm. The change in speed causes a curve, and that curve is the beginning of the rainbow, but not the whole of it. Inside the drop, you bounce. You reflect off the back wall, like a thought echoing off memory. Not all of you makes it through. Some light escapes, some stays, but the part that remains, the part that circles back, bends again on its way out, refracted once more. And in that exit, something extraordinary happens. You're no longer white, you are many. Red unfurls first, lazy and wide, curving less, then orange, a little tighter, then yellow, with a faster beat. Green spins mid-arc, blue tucks in, sharp and curled. Violet bends the most, eager and electric. You, once a single note, have become a chord. This is dispersion, the spreading of light into spectrum, and though it happens everywhere, light passes through change. Only in this raindrop, at this angle, with this sun behind and this eye ahead, does it become a rainbow, not just physics, but perception. You leave the droplet now, and behind you, light scatters like breath on glass. You glance backward, and there it is, the arc, the bloom, the sky's soft signature, signed in frequency and curve. But you notice something strange. The rainbow isn't floating in the sky. It's floating in you, because the angle matters. 42 degrees from the direction of sunlight, which means that each person sees their own rainbow shaped by their eyes, their position, their path. No two people share the same one. You begin to feel what that means, that the rainbow is not out there. It is an event that happens in between sun and drop, between eye and angle, between light and meaning. It exists because you are looking, and without that there is no colour, no arc, just invisible photons passing through curved water, waiting to become seen. You begin to think about other droplets, countless others falling all around, each one performing this dance, each one painting a rainbow no one sees, and you wonder, how much beauty unfolds every moment, unseen? How many wonders bend and scatter, just waiting for an eye to complete them? The raindrop didn't plan this. It didn't know it was about to birth colour. It simply held its shape, and light did the rest. You rest now, floating between refracted waves and quiet sky. You are part of the same equation, the same meeting, the same hidden physics that turns plain things luminous. You are not outside the rainbow. You're its reason. So close your eyes and feel the droplet form again. Feel the light enter. Feel the arc bloom behind your eyelids. You are the place where white light bends and becomes beauty. You're floating now not in sky, or water, or sunlight, but in rhythm. Not sound, but wavelength. A dance of oscillation too fast to hear, too fine to see. And yet, it makes up everything you do see. Light, colour, warmth, even time in its own slow beat. You begin to feel it, now how everything is waving, even you. You drift sideways through the spectrum soft, long waves on one end, short, sharp ones on the other, the electromagnetic spectrum, a single, endless ribbon. You can't see most of it, but it's always there. At one end, radio waves, big and slow, moving like the sigh of an old star. Then microwaves smaller, faster, warming your tea and your memory. Then infrared, just below your sight, the heat of breath, of skin, of sleeping animals in the night. Then the narrow band you know best, visible light. This is where colour lives, but it's only a tiny sliver, a whisper, a shimmer between invisibles, from red long and lazy, the colour of sunsets and blood, to violet, short and quick, the colour of twilight and dreams. Each hue is a frequency, each frequency a vibration, each vibration a message from the cosmos. And though they travel at the same speed, their rhythm shapes how they are seen, or if they are seen at all. You think of sound, how a cello and a violin can play the same note, but feel different. So too with colour. A red photon is not hotter than a blue one, but it is longer, and blue light tighter, quicker scatters more in the sky, which is why the heavens appear blue on a clear day, not because the air is blue, but because blue travels a more tangled path through atmosphere and eye. And when the sun sets, the blue is lost, the reds remain. You're watching wavelengths in motion. You're seeing timing. You think of this now, how your cones, those tiny sensors in your eyes, don't see colour. They respond to specific ranges of wavelength, some short, some medium, some long. And your brain, always listening, always weaving, combines the input, like chords in music, like flavours in tea, like memories layered in dream. And from those rhythms, it paints the world. It says this is yellow, it says this is green. But in the light itself there is no yellow, there is no green, there is only vibration. You feel this now, not just in the air but in your body. You're not still, you're vibrating too. Every molecule dancing, every atom swaying, and in a deeper sense so is your life. Emotions rise and fall in waves. Thoughts ripple, disappear, return. Conversations build and release. You are made of frequency. And what you see, what you call colour, is your mind's way of harmonizing with those frequencies. You think of bees who see ultraviolet, of snakes who sense infrared, of birds who perceive colours you cannot name, dimensions of sight folded beyond your own. And you wonder how many colours live beyond the edge of our knowing, how much beauty we can't yet imagine. Maybe someday we'll see further. Maybe we'll unfold new parts of the spectrum like fresh pages in a book. But for now, you lie still in the gentle middle, the visible band, the rainbow your body can understand. You're not outside the spectrum, you're inside it, you're tuned to it. You are shaped by it. You are one frequency among frequencies, resonating in the quiet field of light. So rest now. Let your thoughts stretch and soften. Let the long waves lull you. Let the short ones shimmer faintly behind your eyes. You're not watching light. You are riding it. And every colour you see is a note, from the universe to your mind. You're floating now beneath the open sky, endless, vast and bright. Blue so soft it seems to wrap around the world like silk. Blue that reaches the curve of the horizon and folds gently into memory. But tonight, you ask the simplest question of all. Why is the sky blue? You've heard the answer before. Perhaps Rayleigh scattering, air molecules bouncing light. But you want to feel it now, to drift inside that scattering, to sense why something as colourless as air could wear so deep a hue. You float upward. The light of the sun pours down in waves, still white, still blended. There are no pigments here, no particles coloured blue. The atmosphere is mostly nitrogen, oxygen gases that have no shade, no stain, no glow, and yet the sky above you gleams with blue, not faintly, not vaguely, but vividly. And here's what happens. As sunlight enters the atmosphere, it meets the molecules of air tiny, spaced far apart, always moving, and the shorter the wavelength, the more it scatters. Blue light is one of the shortest in the visible spectrum, tighter, faster, sharper, so when white sunlight hits the sky, the blue parts get flung in every direction, bounced, scattered, sent twirling through the vast ceiling of the world. And that scattered blue light, it reaches you from all sides, from above, from the edges, from the space behind clouds and birds and dreams. So you see a blue dome, but it's not painted. It's direction, a result of countless tiny deflections happening everywhere at once. You drift gently between these scattering paths now, like floating in a net of starlight. The red light. It passes through, mostly undisturbed, and when the sun is low, morning or dusk, it's the red that survives the long diagonal path through the thickened air. That's why sunsets burn orange. Not because the sun becomes red, but because the blue has left you, scattered away, given to another corner of the sky, and so the story of the blue sky becomes a story of absence, of motion, of emergence. You lie in this now, you let it settle. The idea that colour is not in the air, it's in the path, that the sky is blue not because of what it contains, but because of what it does. It moves light, it selects, it scatters. And your eyes, ancient, tuned by evolution to read this scattering, fill in the hue. A million silent collisions become a single colour, a single sky, and still. No blue pigment anywhere. You think now of things that appear to shimmer like a butterfly's wing or a peacock's feather. No dye, just microscopic structures that bend and scatter light in precise patterns. Structural colour, colour made not by chemistry, but by geometry, by how something handles light, and suddenly you realise the sky's a kind of butterfly wing stretched across the heavens, a living example of structural colour, scaled up to planetary size, and your gaze, it's what brings it to life. You see blue because the light has danced with air, because the molecules busy and invisible took the white and gave you this one piece. You could have lived in a skyless world, a planet with clouds, but no scattering, a ceiling of black, even in day. But you don't. You live inside a colour built from motion and emptiness and precision, a sky that isn't truly blue, but feels like it always has been. So rest beneath that illusion now. Let it hold you. Let it shimmer above you. Even with your eyes closed, you're not outside the sky, you're inside its performance, and its blueness is not a fact, it is a gift. You're floating now far beyond the sky, beyond the soft scattering blue, beyond clouds and air and even warmth, into the cold hush of cosmic space, where distance becomes time, where silence becomes the deepest sound, and where colour so gentle on earth begins to stretch into something vast, ancient and strange. Tonight, you drift with light that left its home billions of years ago, light from galaxies so far away that they no longer shine in your night sky, but their whispers remain, long waves, dim and distant, a kind of stretched starlight. And you wonder, why does this ancient light appear red? It wasn't always. Most of it left its galaxy shining white, full of hot young stars glowing blue with energy. But by the time it reaches you, it is redshifted, pulled, elongated, its wavelength stretched by the expansion of the universe itself. This is the Doppler effect, but for light. You've heard it with sound when a siren passes by, rising in pitch as it approaches, falling as it moves away. Waves compress when coming closer, they stretch when they flee, and light does the same, but not just from objects moving through space, from space itself moving, because the universe is expanding, and as galaxies drift apart, the light between them is pulled. Each crest of the wave takes just a little longer to arrive. The short blue waves lengthen into red. The red fade into infrared. The ancient ones into microwaves. You float now inside one such wave, wide and soft, stretched so far that colour is only a memory. This is what the universe looks like in its quietest language. Not painted in vivid hues, but whispered in deep time. You realize now that red is not just a colour. It is distance. It is history. It is the story of something that began fast and close, and now moves slow and far. Astronomers use redshift as a kind of clock. The deeper the red, the longer the journey, the more stretched the wave, the older the light. It is through these shifts that we map the cosmos. Through them, we know that galaxies are not only receding, but that the space between everything is growing. You drift now beside one of those galaxies, a swirl of stars, still gleaming faintly, and yet, by the time its light reaches you, it has been redshifted beyond sight. It exists in a frequency your eyes can no longer read. And still, it is there. Still, it sings. Still, it sends. You begin to understand that colour is not fixed. It's not a property locked in place. It is a context, a conversation between light and motion, distance and perception. The same beam from the same star will look blue to one, red to another, depending on how fast they are moving. So what is colour? Really, it is change made visible. It is motion translated into perception. It is how the universe tells you, gently, this is moving away, this is very old, this is the light from the beginning. You lie still now, wrapped in that red, not the red of roses or flames, but the red of cosmic drift, of vastness, of time. And you wonder if light can be stretched so softly over time. What else in the universe might bend this way? Could thought, could memory, could love you feel the pulse of it, now not just photons, but something deeper, the sense that everything moves, everything shifts, and that the colours you see are not just what's there, but what has happened. So rest in that knowing. Let the red waves rock you. Let your own thoughts stretch into stillness. You're not just watching the universe move away. You are riding it. You are stretching with it. You are the redshift made flesh, a long wave, still unfolding. You are no longer floating among stars. You're falling gently inward now, not into darkness, but into a kind of quiet clarity. The place where light stops travelling, where photons meet their final destination, where perception begins. You are drifting into the eye, and not just the eye as organ, but the deeper structure behind it, the mind that gives colour a name, a feeling, a presence, the place where light becomes you. You arrive at the surface of the eye, at the cornea, curved and clear like a gentle lens. Light bends here, refracted toward the pupil, then through the lens, focused tighter still, and finally to the retina. A paper-thin layer of neural tissue, the canvas of sight. But even now, colour does not exist. It waits, because light must first strike the cones. Tiny cells shaped like flutes, tuned to different parts of the visible spectrum. There are three main kinds: S, M, and L cones. Short, medium, long. Not because of size, because of wavelength preference. S cones respond best to short wavelengths, violet and blue. M cones to medium greens and yellows. L cones to long oranges and reds. Together, they form a trichromatic system, a delicate triad. Each one alone sees almost nothing, but together they create the illusion of everything. You think of pointillism paintings made of tiny dots that only blend into images when you step back. Your cones are the dots. Your mind is the distance. Colour is the image your brain builds from those scattered signals. But it doesn't stop at the eye. After the cones fire, the signals move through bipolar cells, then ganglion cells, which carry them down the optic nerve, a cable of electricity woven from sensation. And then they split into hemispheres, into processing centres, into layers. Some neurons care about edges, some care about motion, some about brightness, some about colour contrast. None of them know the whole, but somehow, together, they build a world. You realise now colour is not just a signal, it is a construction, a decision. You think you see green, but your cones are merely reporting relative amounts of red and blue light. Your brain is blending those values, making a judgment, calling it green. You've never truly seen colour as it is, only as it is interpreted, and yet that interpretation is so seamless, is just so continuous, that it becomes reality. You float deeper still past the visual cortex into the memory centres, because colour isn't only sensed, it's remembered. You know what strawberries should look like, what the sky ought to be, so your brain can fill in when data is missing. It can invent colour, create it where none exists, in dreams, in hallucinations, in the afterimage that lingers behind closed eyelids. And here, you feel something sacred. The colours you see are not in the world, they are in you. The world sends energy, you send meaning. A red rose is only red because your body has agreed to see it that way. Your cones fire in a certain ratio. Your brain compares, decides, names. But a dog sees differently. So does a bee, so does a mantis shrimp, whose eyes contain over a dozen types of cones, seeing shades we cannot imagine. So whose colour is correct? There is no answer. Only perspectives. only ways of listening to light, and you are one such listener. You're not merely observing, you are interpreting, rendering, colorizing the world in real time. You are the final step in the journey of the photon, not just a destination, but a translation. The universe sends waves, you send color, you turn energy into presence, and even in this moment, eyes closed, lying still, your cones rest, but your mind remembers. You can still see the blue sky behind your lids, still taste the orange of sunset, still recall the softness of lavender, even if it only lives now as thought. Colour is never truly gone. It is not paint on a surface. It is the brushstroke your mind makes when light arrives. So rest now. Let the cones quiet. Let the waves pass. Let the painter inside you sleep. You're not missing anything. You are still the prism, still the canvas, still the mind that brings light to life. You're floating now in a place stranger than space, more mysterious than galaxies, more dreamlike than starlight. You are floating inside the mind's eye, the place where colour blooms even when there is no light at all, where perception becomes poetry, and where the brain, like a careful artist, quietly paints what never truly existed. You drift into the soft folds of thought, and there it is, gentle and strange colour that never was, not because it was lost, but because it was never present to begin with. You begin with a simple illusion. Stare long enough at something bright, a green dot on a white screen, and then look away. The world shimmers with a ghost, a phantom of magenta, glowing where the green used to be. But that colour, it's not coming from the world. It's not even coming from your eyes. It's coming from a kind of rebound, your brain filling in a gap, creating balance from imbalance. A trick. Not exactly. More like a guess. An intelligent, caring guess from a brain that just wants to keep things continuous. You think now of the lilac chaser, an illusion where spots of violet vanish into motion and a single green circle appears in the centre, even though no green was ever shown. That colour-pure invention. No pixels turned green. The iron mind simply decided to see it. You think of colour constancy, how an object remains the same colour to you even under different lighting. A red apple in sunlight is still red in shadow, but the light hitting your retina has changed dramatically. So how do you still see red? Because your brain does subtraction. It adjusts for context, for memory, for expectation. Colour is not just sensation, it's interpretation. A best-guess story told with great precision. You float now beside the idea of impossible colours. Hues the brain typically never allows, like reddish-green or bluish-yellow, mutually exclusive signals, and yet, in certain conditions, through clever tricks of the eyes and mind, you can glimpse them, briefly, a shimmer. Attention, colour beyond language, colour your brain wasn't built to carry but carries anyway. You begin to understand something deeper. Colour is not just a property of light, it is a behaviour of the brain, a language without words, a language your mind speaks fluently, even when the world offers no sound. Think now of filling in. When your blind spot, the place on your retina with no receptors, disappears from your awareness, the brain fills in the missing space with patterns, colours, textures. You see a seamless world, but part of it pure imagination, and yet it feels real, because it's always felt real. You think of dreams, of sunsets behind your eyelids, of meadows and oceans conjured from memory, no photons, no waves, no stimulus, only echoes, still radiant, still warm, still blue and gold and green. You think of art, how two colours placed side by side can blend in your perception, how the eye mixes what never mixed in pigment. How pointillism taught us that seeing is synthesis, and life, too, you realise, is like that, built not from hard facts, but from flickers, hints, contrasts, moments filled in, stories completed. You're not seeing the world directly, you're seeing the mind's version of it, a version coloured by your biology, your experience, your memories. And that's not deception, that's the miracle. The truth that every sunrise you've seen is partly made of light and partly made of you. So lie still now, let the after images fade, let the brain soften its brush. You don't have to chase colour tonight. It will come, it will linger behind your eyes, it will fill the blank places, as it always has. Not because it was there, but because you made it so. You're drifting now through a colour that feels familiar, a field of green, soft moss beneath your feet, leaves curled towards sunlight, emeralds resting in their silence. It's everywhere, this gentle, vibrant green. But tonight, you pause, not to admire it, to ask it, because something odd lives inside this comfort. What if your green isn't mine? You begin to feel the mystery of it, that while we all seem to agree on colour, we might never truly see it the same way. Not because something is broken, but because something is personal. You drift now into the eye again, not your own, but another's. Their cones are similar. 3 types: short, medium, long. Sensitive for the same general wavelengths. But how sensitive, how balanced? What thresholds you realise there is no way to know. We have no device to see through someone else's seeing. When they say green, they may be pointing to something that you would call green, too. But does it feel the same? You'll never know. And yet, we build a world on this agreement. Stoplights, paintings, gardens, flags, all using colour as if it were shared. And in many ways, it is. Because while our inner experience might differ, the labels align. We have words, we have boundaries, we have consensus. You think of the way your brain blends cone input to identify green, a balance between the medium and long wave cones. But another person's cones might be tuned slightly differently. Their green might lean warmer or cooler. Still, they call it green. Still, you nod. Agreement is enough. You float now into the world of colour, naming how different cultures categorise and divide the spectrum. In English, green and blue are separate, but in some languages, they blur. In Japanese, the word ao can mean both. In Vietnamese, the word zan holds both blue and green like a single leaf, seen under different skies. Colour is shaped not just by biology, but by language, by context, by use. You think of a child learning the word green pointing to grass, to leaves, to a crayon stub worn down by wonder. They learn by pattern, by what we all seem to agree on, but that pattern, it's woven from culture, not just cones. And so the child's green becomes ours even if theirs began differently. You drift now into a world with tetrachromats people, usually women, born with 4 types of cones instead of 3, a 4th channel, a new dimension of hue. They can see colours between the colours, greens you've never imagined, oranges inside other oranges, but to them it's normal. Their consensus aligns with ours. even though their experience is far more nuanced. And they don't always know they're seeing more. You think of the colour, forbidden hues colours that can only exist if multiple signals blend in just the right way. Your mind can make them. Your world cannot. Colour is consensus. Colour is construction. Colour is compromise. You lie still now, wrapped in a colour you've always called green. It feels cool, alive, familiar, but tonight it also feels delicate. Not fragile, just more flexible than you thought. You realise now you and the world have been negotiating the terms of perception since you first opened your eyes, and it has worked beautifully, even if no two people ever see quite the same shade. So tonight, let green be whatever it is to you. Let it be moss or mint or forest. Let it be peace. Let it be possibility. Let it be the soft agreement between your biology, your language, and your longing. You don't need to know exactly what colour you see. You only need to feel it. That is more than enough. You're floating now through a softer kind of darkness. Not the absence of light, but the presence of space. A stillness so wide, so constant, it almost hums. It is the night sky, the vast stretch between stars. And you begin to wonder if light is always moving. Why is the sky so dark? You drift into the question slowly, like a thought rising just before sleep. Because the stars are everywhere. You've seen them. Thousands, even with the naked eye. Billions through a telescope. And beyond them, billions of galaxies, each filled with billions more stars. So shouldn't the sky be blinding? Shouldn't it be smeared with brightness in every direction? This is known as Olber's paradox. A simple, aching question with a surprisingly tender answer. And to understand it, you drift further. First, you leave Earth's atmosphere, its blue scattering and shifting clouds. You rise above the haze into vacuum. Here, there is no colour from molecules, no light bouncing from rain or rock, only photons travelling in long, uninterrupted lines. You look around, and most of what you see is black. Not because nothing is there, but because the light hasn't reached you yet. You feel it now. The light from distant galaxies has been travelling for billions of years, but the universe is also expanding. So that light, it stretches, its wavelength grows, it redshifts, until it moves beyond what your eyes can see, beyond red, beyond infrared, into microwaves, into the cosmic microwave background, the cooled echo of the Big Bang, stretched thin across the fabric of existence. You float inside that echo now. It's not black, it's dim, it's soft, it's everywhere. But your eyes weren't built to see it, so the sky looks empty, looks silent, looks black. But it is not. It is full. Full of light that has passed beyond your sight, and full of darkness that exists not because nothing is there, but because light takes time and the universe. It's not eternal in age. It had a beginning, a moment when time and space and energy began to unfold. So the furthest you can see is the distance light has had time to travel, beyond that darkness, not as shadow, but as potential. You begin to feel what this means, that blackness is not failure, it is incompletion, a message still in transit, a thought that hasn't arrived. And even here, in this dark, light is passing through you. Cosmic rays, neutrinos, old photons from dying stars. You just don't notice, because your senses are tuned to only one part of the song, the visible range, the rainbow slice. Everything else, radio, X-ray, gamma. Ultraviolet rushes past like wind you cannot feel. You realize now darkness is not the opposite of color. It is the cradle of it, the background, the canvas, the place where contrast becomes possible. You think of ink on paper, stars on night, the dream behind the eyelids. All require black to be known, and so the night sky, though empty in appearance, is actually rich. Rich with silence, rich with history, rich with all the colours you cannot see because they are too far, too stretched, too faint, or too early. And still, you call it black, because your body has learned to rest in it, because your mind has shaped it into comfort. So as you lie here now, let the darkness be more than darkness. Let it be a room filled with unopened letters, with unread stories, with light so ancient it has turned invisible. You're not lying beneath an empty sky. You're lying beneath a tapestry still being woven. And though it looks like night, it is filled with light, still on its way. You're floating now in a kind of darkness you never knew was lit. A shadowed forest. A night without moon. A silence where vision usually ends. But tonight, you carry a new kind of sight, infrared eyes. You begin to see what was always there just beyond the edge of human vision. Warmth curling from tree trunks, breath rising from resting animals, the ground glowing faintly beneath the footsteps of life. Nothing here glows with visible light, but everything radiates, because infrared is not exotic, it's ordinary. It's the light of heat, the energy of warmth, invisible to human cones but felt on your skin. Every living thing emits it. You drift now past the soft outline of a deer asleep beneath a tree. To your infrared eyes, it shines, not brightly, but truly. Its body gives off waves of light between 700 nanometers and 1 millimeter too long for your usual sight. Too short for radio waves, but very much real. This is a spectrum you do not see, but that snakes and beetles and pit vipers do. Some animals don't just sense heat, they see it, through pits beneath their eyes, tuned to changes in thermal radiation. They can strike prey in total darkness, guided by the light your eyes can't read. You think now of ultraviolet, on the other end of the rainbow, waves shorter than violet, beyond your reach, but not beyond the bees. They drift from flower to flower, not only seeing colour, but patterns invisible to you, targets, guides, signals written in ultraviolet ink. To the bee, the flower glows with a message. To you, it's just yellow. You float with them now, soft wings, gentle buzz, eyes tuned to a secret code. The world looks different here, not better, just broader. You think of reindeer, whose eyes adjust in Arctic twilight to see UV light reflecting off lichen and urine trails in the snow, of mantis shrimp, who may see 12 or more types of colour receptors, not just red, green and blue, but ultraviolet, polarised light, and colours we have no name for. Some researchers debate whether they truly see more colours or just process them differently, but still, the idea blooms that your visible world is only one version of the truth, a narrow window through which the cosmos shines. You begin to understand something softer. Colour is not fixed, it is a translation, and that translation is species-specific. Evolution didn't select you to see everything, just what was most useful for your ancestors. Ripe fruit, falling dusk, flushed faces, but the world contains more than your window allows. You lie still now, and the room around you begins to shift, not literally, but imaginatively. The walls radiate warmth. Your skin hums in infrared, your breath visible in waves you cannot catch. The night outside is full of ultraviolet shimmer, fluorescence in petals, patterns in feathers, gleams on minerals, and stars that shine far beyond violet. You're surrounded by colour you cannot see, but that doesn't mean it isn't there. It means you're always held inside something larger, a spectrum of information too wide to hold at once. And yet, somehow, you hold enough to find beauty, enough to dream, enough to name the sky. So rest now, not in darkness, but in invisible light. Let the unseen hues drift around you, the warmth of bodies, the shimmer of wings, the glow of unseen stars. You're not blind, you're tuned, and there is still more to feel. You're drifting now through the quiet halls of your own perception. Not the ones you visit every day, sight, sound, taste, touch, but the soft corridors where they blend, where the senses stop pretending to be separate, and tonight you open a door into something wondrous, something called synesthesia. It sounds like a dream, but for some, it is every day, a condition, a gift, a strange crossing of wires where one sense triggers another, where a letter is coloured, where a number has a personality, where a song tastes like cinnamon, where a weekday glows pale blue, and the word laughter smells like lilac. You drift into one such mind now, softly, gently, not to analyse it, to feel it. You hear a piano note middle C and watch as a ribbon of soft green trails across your vision, not imagined, seen. The note isn't green, but it arrives that way, linked somehow to your inner palette. The blending begins. You're hearing in colour, seeing in flavour, tasting in shape. You float among people for whom the alphabet is a rainbow. A is red, E is blue, S is silver, but not randomly. These colours remain the same across years, across ages, as if carved into the texture of thought itself. For some, every word is painted, not as metaphor, as experience. You meet someone who sees days of the week arranged in space, Monday to the left, Saturday curled behind, a spatial calendar hovering in the mind's eye. Another sees numbers like coiling threads around them, weaving through space, not just counted, but located. This is not imagination. This is how their minds organize the world. And it makes you wonder, what is normal perception? Anyway, isn't all of it a kind of internal art? Your red might not be my red. Your melody might never echo in my mind the way it does in yours. But in synesthesia, that art spills across boundaries. It turns the senses into bridges, not borders. Science doesn't fully understand why it happens. Some think synesthetes retain connections between brain regions that others prune away, or perhaps their sensory centres are more tightly coupled music touching vision, language brushing up against taste, and while it may seem rare, it's more common than you think. Some estimate 1 in 25 people experience it, often without realising it's unusual. They simply think everyone sees Wednesdays as indigo, or taste vanilla when they hear trumpets. You begin to wonder if, in some way, everyone holds a little synesthesia. Think of the way we describe things. A loud shirt, a warm colour, a sharp cheese. These are not technical terms. They're borrowed sensations. One sense reaching into another's drawer to borrow a word. We talk this way because the mind already feels this way, even if faintly, even if unconsciously. And what about memory? Have you ever smelled something old cologne, warm bread, wet pavement, and felt a moment from long ago pull softly back into place. That's a kind of sensory synesthesia, the way scent and memory hold hands, the way a flavour can remind you of a room, the way colour can summon emotion you thought you'd forgotten. You lie still now, wondering if your own senses blur more than you think. You see your grandmother's garden, do you smell the marigolds? Or do you hear them somehow in the way the wind moved? Do you remember the blue of a birthday cake, or the feeling that came with it? Maybe the senses were never meant to stay separate. Maybe they're rivers that braid together at the deltas of the mind. So rest now, traveller of perception. Let your thoughts blend. Let your dreams come in colour and scent and rhythm. You are more than eyes and ears. You are a symphony of associations. And somewhere, deep in the mind, there's a place where the colour green tastes like your childhood, and it always will. You're drifting now not through space, but through time, backward, slowly, gently, back past memory, past history books, past empires and alphabets and fire, to a time when people lived by the sun and the stars, when language was still learning how to shape the world, and in this early world there was no blue, not yet. You hear the voices of ancient poets, describing the sky not as azure or cobalt, but as something else, something dark, something metallic, something like the colour of bronze shadows. You listen to Homer in the Odyssey, describing the sea not as blue but as wine dark. You pause. Why didn't they just say blue? The sea is blue, the sky is blue, isn't it? But maybe not. Maybe colour isn't just what's in the world. Maybe it's what language has learned to notice. You drift through ancient texts now, listening for colour words. And they arrive in a curious order. First, black and white, the dark and the light. Then red, the colour of blood, of fire, of heat. Then yellow, green things that grow, that ripen, that shine. And finally, slowly, blue, almost always the last to appear in languages, even though it was always in the sky, even though it was always in the ocean. You begin to understand that colour terms don't evolve from the outside in. They grow from use, from contrast, from need. Our ancestors could see blue. Of course their biology had the same cones, but without a word it wasn't something distinct. It blended into the background. It was part of the light, not a thing with a name. And the world before blue, it must have felt warmer, more earthbound, more fire and soil and bone. You drift now beside a person from 5,000 years ago, standing at the edge of water. They see the shimmer. They see the movement. But do they see blue, or just depth, distance, stillness? You think of how the ancient Egyptians were one of the first to create blue pigment, grinding minerals like lapis lazuli into powder, mixing it with heat and chemistry, and once they had it, they gave it meaning. They used it for gods, for royalty, for eternity. And soon, blue became a thing, a category, a word. And once we had a word, we began to see it everywhere. You drift gently into the brain now, remembering that language can shape perception. In some cultures, people with more colour words can distinguish subtle differences others miss. Studies with the Himba people in Namibia show they can detect greens. Most cannot but struggle to differentiate between blue and green when both are unnamed. Language, it seems, carves grooves in the eye, and the tongue trains the brain to see. So now you wonder, what colours are you still blind to? Not because your eyes can't see them, But because your mind hasn't been taught to look, what blue skies have passed unnoticed because they had no name? What subtle shifts in mood, in memory, in wonder are waiting to be named, so they can finally be seen? You lie still now beneath your ceiling or your stars, and you think of the colours in your life, the ones you know, the ones you haven't met yet. You're not finished naming, not finished noticing. You still live in a world where new blues can be born, where perception expands as language unfolds, and maybe, as your dreams open tonight, you'll drift into a shade that's never been spoken, a colour that waits patiently between violet and silence, and in the morning, you'll give it a name. You're drifting now through something weightless, yet full of memory. It falls in slow spirals across galaxies. It collects in rings and clouds, in planets and palms. You breathe it in with every sigh. Stardust. Tiny particles of mineral and metal flung outward in the death throes of ancient suns. You float among them now, grains of carbon, oxygen, iron, magnesium, and within these grains lies the palette of the cosmos, because everything with colour, every red canyon, every green leaf, every pigment ever ground into paint begins with dust. You drift beside a dying star, a red giant, shedding its outer layers like a silk robe in slow motion. It pulses, it cools, it sends out the building blocks of colour. When this star dies, its core will collapse, and if it explodes, its remains will scatter through space, seeding the universe with raw material, the iron in your blood, the calcium in your teeth, the copper that will someday turn turquoise on a weathered rooftop, all of it born in a furnace you'll never see. You feel this now, the pigment isn't just on the surface of things, it comes from events, from cataclysms that shaped the chemistry of everything that later became still. You float down now to earth, to ochres and clays, ground by early humans into the first paints, to hematite rich in iron, deep red, to malachite bright green from copper, to lapis lazuli that rare, celestial blue, so precious it once cost more than gold. You think of how pigments were found, crushed, mixed with oils and binders, painted onto cave walls, scrolls, skin, sky. You drift through history like a brushstroke, Egyptians colouring papyrus with orpiment yellow, Romans decorating frescoes with cinnabar red, painters using ultramarine for the robes of saints because it was rare, divine, forged in the earth under crushing time. And none of these colours were synthetic. They were all mineral memory, the dust of stars, the sediment of ages. Even modern pigments engineered in labs, printed in ink, owe their lives to what the periodic table provides. The elements are our box of crayons. The earth is a canvas of cosmic debris. You think now of chlorophyll, which makes leaves green, built from magnesium, or hemoglobin, making blood red, built from iron. Colour is not abstract. It is elemental. It is the chemistry of light interacting with matter. Different atoms absorb and reflect different wavelengths. What we call colour is the part of light not absorbed. What we see is the light left behind. And in that leftover light, we recognise beauty. You begin to realise that when you see a painting, you are looking at a record of the stars. Not symbolically, literally. Every colour ever painted was drawn from Earth, and Earth was drawn from the sky, from explosions, from fusion, from dust that fell together, cooled, condensed, and found itself in your hand. You lie still now, and the walls around you glow differently. You see them not just as surfaces, but as stories. Everything with colour has a chemical past. The blue of your jeans, the pink in a seashell, the yellow of turmeric, all of it once stardust, all of it once silent atoms, waiting to reflect the right light into the right eye, into your eye. And tonight, perhaps you'll dream of painting with those colours, not from tubes or palettes, but from the periodic table, from the sky, from the stars that ended so others could begin, because you are not just made of dust, you are coloured by it. So rest now. Let your thoughts settle like pigment in a slow glass. You are the canvas, and the cosmos is still painting. You're floating now in a place where light hides and waits, not in the sun, or the rainbow, or the sky, but in the secret shadows, the dark corners, the quiet moments after dusk. This is where colour does something strange, something alive, something that glows without flame. You drift beside a jellyfish pulsing softly in deep water, his body transparent, its edges shimmering with blues and greens that seem to come from nowhere. This is bioluminescence, life's own light, a light born not of sun, but of chemistry, where molecules inside the creature mix and match, creating energy that leaps into photons, soft, flickering, magical, not a flame, not a reflection, but a gift. You think now of fluorescence, a kind of hidden glow, where certain materials absorb light at one wavelength, often ultraviolet, and release it slowly at another, a glow-in-the-dark watch, a blacklight painting, minerals that seem dull in sunlight but shimmer vividly in the dark. You drift now to fireflies in a meadow, tiny beacons blinking rhythmically, communicating, attracting, surviving, each flash a language, a dance of photons. You feel the wonder of it, life not only reflecting light, but making it, adding its own voice to the cosmic conversation. Even plants do it, fluorescing under the right light, their leaves glowing softly. Not to us, but to the insects that see differently. You think of corals lighting reefs, of mushrooms that shine in forest gloom, of certain minerals that glow under cosmic rays. These colours aren't paint or pigment, they are transformed energy, released in soft waves. And you begin to sense colour is not static, it's a process, a story told in stages. Light arrives, it's absorbed, it's held, it's changed, it's given back, and in that giving back, a glow is born, one that lingers, one that speaks. You lie still now, in the dark, and imagine the quiet dance of molecules, the pulses of energy inside living things, the slow release of photons long after the sun has set. You're not alone in the night. The universe glows softly. It sings in blues and greens you can barely see. It pulses in flashes you might never notice. And that light, it is part of you, part of life, part of the endless, unfolding story of colour. So rest now. Let the glow inside you rise. Let your mind shimmer softly. You are part of the light that doesn't fade. You're the glow that never truly leaves. You're drifting now through the gentle garden of perception, where colour is more than mere sensation. It is a kind of language, a soft code, a whispered guide. Though it begins as an illusion, a construction of mind and light, it shapes how life moves, how eyes choose, how hearts respond. You think of a hummingbird darting toward a red flower. It sees that red differently than you, brighter, more urgent, a signal, a promise of nectar, or a warning. Colour guides not just what we see, but what we do, what we eat, who we trust, who we avoid. You drift now into a meadow. The flowers blaze with colours tuned to pollinators. Their petals a palette painted by evolution itself, not for beauty alone, but for survival, to attract, to hide, to warn. You think of poison dart frogs, their skins glowing bright in forest shadow, colours that say don't eat me, and predators listen. Colour is a contract between life forms, a dance of information, of attraction and avoidance. You realise now colour is a signal, not just a feeling, not just a shade. It's a message written in wavelengths, and you, the perceiver, are part of that message. The world is both painter and canvas, both singer and listener. You lie still now, wrapped in colours imagined and real. You feel the delicate balance, how illusions guide truths, how the brain's dance with light shapes the very fabric of being. You begin to understand that colour is not less real because it's constructed. It's more real because it weaves meaning, because it guides the flow of life, because it makes the invisible choice visible. You're not tricked by colour, you're touched, you're shaped. You are part of the endless conversation between light, life, and mind. So rest now, let colour hold you. Let it weave dreams in hues only you can see. And know, though it begins as illusion, colour is a kind of truth, a truth you carry gently into sleep. You are floating now beyond the last colours of day, beyond the warm glow fading into twilight, beyond even the softest hues lingering on your eyelids. Here, you meet a quiet question, a tender mystery. Does a rainbow exist if no one sees it? You feel the curve of that question, not as paradox, but as invitation, because colour is not just a property of light, it is a dance between light and observer, between photons and perception, between the world and you. You drift now through the empty space where raindrops fall, countless droplets spinning in silent arcs, light refracting, dispersion unfolding, colours ready to bloom, but no eye is there, no mind to receive, no brain to interpret. Is the rainbow still? Is the colour real? Some scientists say that colour is subjective. It is created inside the mind, an event, a sensation, not a thing. Without perception, light waves remain just waves, patterns in space, not colours, not rainbows. You imagine the world from the perspective of a blind observer. The sound, the touch, the scent, but no colour, no red, no violet, no arc. And yet, the universe still bends light, still scatters waves, still carries photons through drops, but the rainbow waits, patient, silent, incomplete. And in this waiting, you begin to feel the power of observation, the gentle power of being, the way you don't just see, you create. You lie still now, feeling the quiet magic of your own presence. The way your mind turns waves into colour, turns physics into poetry, and in that act makes the world alive. You begin to understand you are not a passive witness. You are a participant, a co-creator, a prism through which the universe unfolds. Without you, the rainbow is a secret waiting to be told, a song waiting for a voice, a colour waiting for a mind. So rest now. Let yourself be the light's companion, the quiet listener, the dreamer who sees, and as you drift towards sleep, know this. The colours you see are gifts, not given, but shared. Between you and the world, between the sky and your eyes, between light and love, you are floating now far beyond perception. beyond the spectrum your eyes can catch, beyond the dreaming mind that weaves colour from light into a place that is both silent and full, a place where light exists not as colour, but as pure energy, the universe itself. You begin to sense that the cosmos doesn't have colour. Not really. Not the way you know it. Stars don't shine red or blue because they are those colours. They shine because of temperature, energy, motion. Because of photons moving in waves, not hues. The fabric of space does not hold pigment. The vacuum does not paint. There is no sky blue in the void. Only wavelengths, frequencies, vibrations, only harmony. You float through the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of creation, its light stretched thin and cooled to near absolute zero. No colour, no saturation, only whispering warmth. The universe dreams in this colourless light, waiting to be known. You realise that colour is not cosmic fact, it is local. A property that emerges only when light meets matter, and matter meets mind. When energy folds into biology, when photons touch cones, when waves become meaning, you think of the silence behind sound, of the shadow behind light, of the stillness inside motion. Colour is the universe's song, only when it finds an ear, and you, dear listener, are that ear. You're the place where cosmic harmony becomes personal, where the vastness folds into intimacy, where the infinite curves back to itself. You lie still now, wrapped in the quiet mystery, the knowing that colour is a gift, a bridge. Between the cold stars and the warm heart, between the empty dark and the shining mind, and as you drift into sleep, let the colourless light cradle you. Let it whisper of stars, of atoms, of waves yet to be heard. You are part of this dream, a note in the universe's silent symphony. And in this silence, there is everything. You're resting now at the edge of everything, not outside, not beyond, but inside. Inside the unfolding story of light and shadow, inside the dance of waves and particles and dreams. And tonight, you come to a gentle truth, a truth as old as time and as new as your breath, that the universe needed you, not just to witness, not just to observe, but to complete, to be the prism. You think back to the rainbow, to the raindrop, to the bending and splitting of light. None of it fully exists without the eye, without the mind, without you. Colour is not an object. It is a meeting, a joining, a shared secret between light and life. You realise now you are the reason the universe blooms with colour. You are the place where wavelengths become warmth, where vibrations become meaning, where photons become poems, and in that, there is wonder, a sacred participation, a call and response. Between the infinite and the intimate, you are the prism, splitting white light into the spectrum of experience. You are the artist painting with unseen brushes. You are the listener for the universe's song. And as you lie here, wrapped in darkness and light, you understand that colour is not just out there, it's inside you, a bridge between stars and soul, between physics and feeling, between what is and what is known. So rest now, let the colours fold around you like soft petals. Let the light that needs you settle gently in your mind. Let the universe see itself through you, and as you drift into sleep, know this. You are the prism it needed. You are the rainbow's secret. You are the quiet miracle of colour made flesh. You are home. Sleep well, dear listener. You are loved. You are light. You are wonder.